All right, what is going on, Banter fam? Welcome into today's edition of In the Game. I am your host, Hustle, and as always, we will be diving into the NFT gaming landscape today as I am joined by one of the top communities in all of the Solana gaming ecosystem today, HoneyLand. Corey from HoneyLand will be joining me today as I'm stoked to kind of dive into the projects, their views on the GameFi space and everything around the corner. They do have their land mint next week and a lot of exciting events around the corner with the ecosystem. So we're going to dive in top to bottom into HoneyLand today in this edition with our guest, Corey Wright from HoneyLand. So without further ado, let's get in the game.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you gon' play, but ain't a percent. If you ain't here to hustle, why is you here? But if you here to hustle, the moon is near. It's crypto Banter, not financial advice. If you don't listen, what's the cost, what's the price? This ain't a game, put you on game. I know you gon' play, but ain't a play. If you get lost, show you the way.
All right, and let's get right into it. Be sure to drop down and hit the like button if you enjoy the show, and be sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new to the channel. We drop brand new shows and videos here around the entire cryptocurrency industry on Crypto Banter every single day here on the channel. And shout out to our sponsors, Animoca Brands, the biggest Web3 gaming company in the world, Unix Gaming, one of the leading Web3 infrastructures in all of blockchain gaming, and MEXC, the official exchange of the In the Game show. So without further ado, let's bring on our guest today, Corey from HoneyLand. Corey, thank you so much for joining me this Friday afternoon. I know things are hectic in the space. Thank you for taking the time.
Super stoked to be here, Hustle, and good to catch up.
Absolutely. And just a little background for the audience. You know, we linked up back at the Game Developer Conference in San Francisco back in March, and I started hearing about the project at that time. And now fast forward 6 months, lots changed in the markets and a lot evolved with HoneyLand. So I'm super stoked to really get into it today with you, because I think a lot of exciting things are going on in the ecosystem. So without further ado, I want you to just kind of introduce yourself, and then if you want to give a brief overview of HoneyLand, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, cool. I appreciate it. So I'm one of the 4 co-founders of HoneyLand, along with a studio of 30 full-time developers, makes up really the core team of building the project. This is a project that we launched back in November of last year, 2021, and really wanted to build the future of Web3 gaming and take it from a different, we saw a ton of opportunity in Web3 gaming and wanted to really take some different approaches to make it a little bit more like Web2 that leveraged a lot of the Web3 benefits. So in terms of like fun gameplay and user experience and a lot of that stuff, we wanted to feel a lot more like Web2, but wanted to be able to take advantage of all the incredible things that Web3 brings to gaming that I think really will unlock this in terms of just kind of community and this idea of ownership and creating assets that you can actually own, whether it's tokens or NFTs that can be used and played and traded and sold. And then just this idea that, you can have an economy within a game and within an ecosystem that becomes larger than just a single title or a single game. And so really wanted to take advantage of all that stuff. It's a strategy and resource management game, which is HoneyLand, built around really, really sound game mechanics, and tokenomics, I think, are some of the things that we take really, really seriously. But players will organize a colony of bees. They'll send them out on missions to go harvesting and hunting and bringing back honey tokens and shards. Those shards can be redeemed for actual NFTs in our store that can be used in the game or traded on the marketplace or sold, or all the different things that you can do with NFTs. And so leveraging that, and then building, because we are a studio, using HoneyLand as what we'll call our token emission game that is really, really fun to play. And this is how tokens get into the Honeyverse, and then having an entire studio of a number of other titles that we call snackable titles that you can spend a lot more time in, PvP, luck and chance-based games. You'll have word games and all sorts of free-to-play games, all sorts of different types of more snackable titles that become places that you can start to use the honey tokens that you're earning inside of the HoneyLand. So
I love it. And you immediately harped on the one thing that I preach on the most, and that's tokenomics, economics, making this thing healthy. And I think that I wanted to ask your opinion on just your thoughts on the GameFi space currently, what we've seen and what you kind of saw as the future model. And we'll talk about the Machinations tokenomics as well in just a second. But where do you kind of see, obviously you're building in the industry, so you're generally bullish on Web3 gaming, but how far, I like to ask the guests, where do you think this industry could really go? And as far as what we've seen and what we see going forward, what do you think is the model for mass adoption?
Yeah. So, when I look at kind of the broader vision or scope, and one of the things that we're really trying to build is something that's much larger than a game, that feels a lot more like an ecosystem. And I know a lot of projects are focused on interoperability. This is one of the words that you'll hear a lot.
Right.
I think of interoperability of the token being more valuable than interoperability of the non-fungible tokens. And so being able to take one of my bees from HoneyLand and play it in another game is really cool. Being able to take a token that I can earn inside of HoneyLand and have real utility or value outside of HoneyLand, I think is a much larger opportunity here. And so I think where we're going to start to see Web3 gaming go is that games are not just focused on building a game that sits under a gaming model, but they're building ecosystems where there's a lot of ways to interact with and experience the game, the community, the token, the utility that the studio can build, not just inside of a game while you're playing, but in a much larger IRL and other tools and utility outside of the game as well. And so that's where I think it's really heading, is that the token, ultimately, when you can build it around really sound tokenomics. I always say that, Web3 has really been focused on brokenomics to date, and we're trying to build real tokenomics.
Good term. Different than the Ponzi-nomics term.
Yeah.
Everyone uses.
I wanted to use something different than the Ponzi-nomics. So I went with brokenomics.
Yeah.
And we're really trying to fix it. And I think there's a number of things that we're doing creatively, but I can tell you that the heart of everything we're doing is saying, how can we make sure that this token has value 3 years into the future and 5 years into the future? Not for this idea that people can cash out and make tons of money and become billionaires, but for the idea that we can provide real happiness and real utility with that honey token, that it allows that to be unlocked in your life. And I think that if we do this in a really, really sound way, that we have sound tokenomics, that we build real utility, we have scarce supply or a fixed supply, which creates scarcity, that can drive up demand and utility for it, which ultimately drives up value. And, we're going to start to think of tokens in USD and how it can be like what the equivalent is. But for me, I'm trying to figure out what the utility is that owning honey tokens will unlock for anybody who's owning that honey token, that you would need honey token to unlock certain experiences or activities or games or, ways that we can increase happiness or utility in your life by owning that honey token. And there's no other alternative other than that. So that's what we're really thinking about.
Yeah, I love it. And finding those, as they call them, sinks, finding those ways to try to find an economic model where players are actually incentivized to keep the token in the game, right? So finding a healthy model, I completely agree, for games that are using the token model. And there's so many ways that games are innovating, trying to go about things. And I think there's probably a fit for all of them. So we'll just have to see which one kind of does become that model. But I think it's really impressive at HoneyLand that you guys have gotten Machinations to come look at the tokenomics and be that kind of checks and balances almost, and just really reviewing and tweaking potentially things that you guys are doing on your tokenomics front to make sure that those are super strong. And on the AMA we did the other day in Discord, I likened it to movie producers, right? No one knows who produces movies. They all know that it's Leonardo DiCaprio or Denzel Washington, right? So it's kind of like that type of thing. So explain the strength of having someone like Machinations, who, if you're watching the video, even I don't talk about like Machinations on the show too much, but they are a pivotal tokenomics player in the space. And how much of a pivotal factor have they been for you guys?
Yeah, well, shout out to Felix too, who first introduced me to Machinations at GDC when we were all hanging out and spending some time together. But there's this idea, like to really create a token that carries value over time. There's two things. There's the tokenomics, which is how are those allocated, invested, and introduced, and what are the sinks and faucets that you can have with that token. And then the second side of it is having a really balanced economy inside of the game. And so Machinations helps with that second part, right? And they say, great, as we start to build all of these different things that players can do in a game, as we have all these different player personas, we have people who are trying to maximize fun versus people who are trying to maximize profits. Those are two very different players. We have whales and we have scholars. Those are two very different players. And so when we start to look at all these different player personas, and then as they're in the game and they're earning these assets, there's so many things that they can do with them that affect the game economy or don't affect the game economy. And so how are we basically leveraging or planning for all of these things. And so Machinations comes in. It is a wildly resource intensive project, both time, money, energy, resource, all of that stuff, to make sure that we're doing this. But it essentially allows us to build everything that a player can do in the economy, and everything that goes on. Dump in a bunch of player personas. We can track Solana price and Honey price and all these things, and simulate over days, weeks, months, years out into the future to see where maybe the economy is imbalanced early on, so that we can start to fix those things before we move to the alpha and before we move to the public launch. And so it gives us the ability to start to look at things, make sure that we have a much more balanced economy as we launch the game, which is one of those two key elements to really having a sound token, ultimately that will create value over time. And so it's been really, really fun. And we've identified even early on two things that we needed to do, two major changes that we needed to make just through some of the early simulations. And we're still 3 to 4 weeks away from having like full game economy, multiplayer type of simulations that we're able to take place. So it should be, I'm sure we'll learn a lot more as well.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting as the economy evolves and the gameplay, kind of evolves, right? And the players kind of get in there and give it a shot. So what's the timeline on like an alpha gameplay for those who are interested, as well as potentially like a quarter for the full game launch? And then what is the core gameplay loop like for those who are looking at the game? What would be the gameplay loop like?
Yeah, so we should have our alpha ready end of October. If anybody's interested, we're going to put 5,000 people into that alpha. We've got already a couple thousand people who have requested through kind of different means through our community or minting and things like that want to be a part of it. But we'll still have a lot of room to get people in. So I would say follow us on Twitter or jump in our Discord. If you want to be a part of that alpha, we'll have plenty of announcements and opportunities to get into that. So we'd love to have you guys. End of next month is when we should expect to launch that alpha. We'll run that for 4 to 6 weeks, collect as much data as we can, fix the errors and bugs, the UI, UX things, find the exploits, try and fix all that stuff. And then we're looking at late Q4, sometime in December is when we'll have the public launch of the game. In terms of the core game loop, so the core game loop is what we call proof of management, right? So it's this strategy and resource management game where you have a colony of bees, you're sending them out on different missions, they're returning at different times with different amounts of honey token or different amounts of shards. And so as they're coming back, they then have a cooldown period, they become idle and ready to go back out on missions. And as you strategize to find the most advantaged lands, organize your colony of bees so as they match likes and certain traits within the bees, they can get mission boosts. And so the goal is to find the most efficient mission based on the land that you're sending them to, the colony that you're organizing on that mission, and then the least amount of competition from other players for that same land will allow you to bring back more resources in a shorter amount of time and then reduce idle time. And so it's a proof of management game where we're hoping that players will log in 5 to 15 times a day for 5 to 15 minutes at the time. It's more kind of like a social media type of itch that we're filling as opposed to like a long session of gaming. But we have that game mall where that's where you'll be able to go and play a number of different games, for like strategy games and things that will have that you'll be able to clock a lot more time in a single session. And then I would say that's kind of the core loop, but there's really the meta games are a huge part of this as well. So as you're earning those honey tokens, like what are you using those for? Are you going to purchase items that can upgrade your colony? Are you using those to breed and grow your colony? Are you using those in the marketplace? Are you somebody who's just wants to have fun and you're spending those on cosmetic upgrades to swap out the look of your bees in your hive? Are you taking those into the game mall and just spending them on other activities that are fun, but aren't necessarily, giving you a benefit or an advantage on future missions? And so I think the meta games will become a really, really big part of this. And then the community, sub-DAOs, guilds that we're really trying to give the ability to make this a really social environment through, leaderboards and kind of mission intel that can help from day to day, certain things that we built in to make it really community and socially focused as well.
Yeah, I love it. And those quick core gameplay loops, there's markets for grinders who sit in front of the game all day and play 8 hours at a time. And there's markets for people who want to open up potentially their laptop and play a couple of games really quickly, or their cell phone or whatever it is, right? They're able to, between like a lunch break or just while in the back of an Uber, maybe at night even, hop on an app or, hop on their desktop or like their laptop somewhere and be able to play a couple quick core gameplay loops. So I think that's pivotal, honestly, whenever it comes to, Web3 experiences that really capture attention, because you want to come back to it. Like there are games in my past that I've played that are like, it caps out. You can only do so much in a certain period of time type of thing, right? So you look forward to like at night as a kid. You get to come back and you have that XP generated again where you can play again type of thing, right? So those 5 to 15 minute core gameplay loops, like you said, 5 to 15 times a day. I think that's brilliant, honestly, for those who are those, in and out, quick core gameplay loop style players. And then I know the land mints next week. So how does the land factor into the economy?
Yeah, so the land is going to be the most passive way of earning honey tokens in the ecosystem. So all the lands will be owned. There's a couple treasury owned lands so that we can create like entry conditions and tournaments and quests and things like that. But the majority, 95% of the land in HoneyLand will be owned by players. And this is just another way to play the game is through land ownership. And you'll set entry fees and commissions for people who are using your land to go get honey tokens and shards. And you'll be able to earn passively. And some management, mild management, will give you the ability to earn more. So as more bees are flooding into the ecosystem before we're about to have a big kind of land release that would spread out the number of bees, you can probably charge higher commissions right after we have land releases and we open up more lands. The bees get spread out a little bit more. You'll want to be a little bit more attractive, so you'll reduce your commissions and entry fees. But it's just a passive way to earn. It's another way to play. And so what we're doing for the land mint is next Thursday, the 22nd of September, we'll have our land mint. There's 3 phases that we'll be minting. There's a pre-sale phase, which this goes to a lot of our community. We did like raffles for original Genesis holders. We sold passes early on. And so pass holders and raffle winners and things like that have a lot of the pre-sale. That's a guaranteed mint. It's 5 SOL. It'll be the very first window of our minting. However, if you come into our Discord, the final way to get presale is we have quests that you can go on. And this is through liking YouTube videos and, retweeting and some things in Spotify. We've got, a Spotify channel. So we basically incentivize actions that you can earn honeypots and then redeem those honeypots for either an opportunity to get into a raffle for some of those presale tokens, or if you earn enough, you can actually outright just go get one of those presale tokens. We have 200 of those available, first come, first serve. I think we have less than 50 left. So we have a lot of people who already took advantage of that. The second phase, though, this is the one that everybody can get in, is our guest list. And so presale is going to be a lot more difficult to get in if you're just coming into the project. But if you go to guestlist.honey.land, we have a guest list, or basically an application where you can tell us how you'll be a valuable member of our community. And there's a number of different things that you can do. You can be a gamer. You can be a founder. You can be somebody who's in Web3. You can be an artist, a community builder, a content writer. Like there's so many different things that you can be to ways that you can add value to our community. But the idea is that if we've got this asset that's really valuable that people want, there's more demand than supply right now. It's a 2,000 piece collection. There's a number of people who want to get in and mint this. We want to take advantage of that and really curate the community to build one of the strongest communities. I know that you've got a community with TTOO, which is so strong and incredible. And, we really are proud of the community that we've built as well. And every time we have a new mint or a new opportunity to bring more people in, whether it's the alpha or whether alpha launch or whether it's the upcoming land mint, we want to make sure that we're bringing the right people in so that we're not just growing in size, but we're really strengthening and driving home the values that we've built our community on, which is just different. I think, a lot of people get into our community and they're like, this is different. This is what I've been looking for in a Discord community, in a Web3 gaming community, in a Solana community, in a DGen community, whatever it is, we've built something that's really special. We're not for everybody, but if we are for you, we want to be able to find that out through this guest list process. And then we'll assign you a guest list, which will then allow you to go mint one land. That'll be the second phase. And then if there's anything left, it'll go to public. I don't expect it to get to public, but so the 5 SOL would be the pre-sale, 6 SOL for anybody who gets guest list, and then 8 SOL at public is the mint price for those lands.
That is fantastic. And I think that when you look at the community building in this time period, right? So as mentioned at the beginning of the show, we had linked up at GDC about 6 months ago. And whenever that time period, the market was in a lot better state than it is now, right? And communities, a lot of Web3 gaming communities, sentiment has gone to the floor or below the floor, and not talking price, I'm talking just the sentiment is just, it's dead. It's RIP to those games, right? And those communities. So building a community in this time period, I know is super hard. So that's why at the beginning, I prefaced, I think it's one of the strongest Solana gaming communities out there. Can you kind of talk about community building in this time period as a leader and a founder in the space, how that's been kind of cultivating a community in these time periods, while you're building a quality product in the background, kind of navigating the sentiment that's come along the way. And then, just kind of the things that you've seen. And it's kind of the blessings of building in a bear market almost, because the people who you do capture are so much more bought into the space. So what has been your experience in building a community in such a down market?
Yeah, so myself and all of my other 3 co-founders, we all come from Web2. We've all been Web2 founders for decades now. And so, coming from that and moving into Web3, there was a lot of things that were different. Like how tight the builders are to the community is so different than Web2, where you get to kind of build in private and then launch to what we would call a customer, not a community member, right? And so like everything becomes a lot closer. And I think when we first came into this and it was a bull market, it was, I don't want to say difficult for us, but it was, other projects had an advantage if they were really good at marketing and hype. And what we found is that Web3, it's about building hype. And if you get enough of it, you figure out what product you're going to build. And for us, we were used to building products. And if it's good enough, it creates a lot of hype. And so that's kind of the element that we've took. And I think getting back to those first principles of building product and building really, really sound product and doing it the right way and not just being a hype train or a marketing vehicle to drum community up. We had a really, really small community when we went to our first land mint. We had like 13,000 in our Discord, and we were minting a 5,500 piece collection, which most people's in a bear market, which most people would have said you need a community that's at least 5 times your collection size if you want to have a chance at minting out. But we had built a really, really strong curated community early on, and we minted out in 102 minutes. It was really, really cool. It was a great event. It was, and they're eggs still. They haven't even had the art reveal or the rarity reveal, and they won't be able to be used in a game for another 3 months. And yet they've continued to hold that floor price. We minted at 2.5 SOL. They're right around 4 SOL right now. A really good entry point into HoneyLand, if you're looking to get there, would be that Genesis collection. We've got eggs right there. They'll have a lot of utility in the game, but owning one of those actually unlocks it. We have a lot of gated parts of our community, things that we're doing for like IRL events and some of our Discord and private events and things like that are only for our Genesis holders. So land gives you a really cool opportunity to be a part of the game. And one way to play the Genesis collection is certainly another way. I would highly recommend owning a land NFT would be awesome. You can get both of those for right around 10 SOL, between the mint and going to get a B from secondary. But the other thing that I've noticed is that building in a bear market, you get in a bull market, everybody apes into everything because there's an opportunity for 10 or 50 or 100x, right? And so it's like, let's just spread my chips across. I don't really know anything about the project or the founders or the utility, but if I catch 100x, I'll be happy and it makes up for all my other losses. And in a bear market, everybody's a lot more intentional about not only how they spend their money, but how they spend their time and their energy. They realize that like, I don't want to I'm sick of putting my energy into a project that just rugs or doesn't deliver on anything that they said that they were going to do. Or, at the first time of turmoil or market uncertainty, they bounce. And that's not what we want. And so they're a lot more diligent about how they spend their time as well as how they spend their money. And I think that's really important because it allows these really good projects to be able to slowly build a good community instead of quickly build a very fragile community. And builders get a little bit more time, a little bit more leniency. In a bull market, you have to launch tomorrow. When mint, when airdrop, when, right? And now people are like, hey, we believe in this project, so we don't need it tomorrow. We just need it to happen. And so there's a lot more patience from the community as well. I love it. I think building in a bull is fun, but building in a bear is really special as well. And getting ready to come out of the bear market at some point in the next, 12 to 24 months, probably. I think that if we can continue to build that community in that time, when the bull hits, it'll be a lot of fun already having a really solid core community and project.
I agree tenfold. I think that, the people here now, they're really bought into the space, and the way that you guys have gone about navigating it and building up to this point, I think is super exciting. So obviously the land mint is on the 22nd.
Correct.
Alpha game
end of next month.
Got it. And then obviously for people who want to follow the project, honey.land, and then we have the Twitter HoneyLand GameFi. Anything else you want to shout out? Where can they join the Discord if you want to get involved in the community? But anything else around the corner or anything you want to leave the audience with before we start wrapping it up?
So really quickly, guestlist.honey.land is where you'll apply to get guest list for the land mint. There's the last question that says, when we have our alpha, would you like to be a part of that? You can enter your email. That's one other way to sign up for the alpha as well. So really, really simple to do that. And then I should mention, we're doing just a couple things with the land mint that are fun. Land is typically just land. We wanted to make this gamified. We're trying to innovate in just about everything that we do. And so we will have a staking mechanic available for the land that does 2 things. Number one, it's got in-game benefits. So your land is like more discoverable in the game. when bees are looking for lands to go to if you're staking your land. So discoverability means, you're going to get more bees on your land, which gives you the ability to earn more. It also gives you, there will come with weekly airdrops where we'll actually airdrop shards to you as you're staking your land. So weekly airdrops will be pretty fun for staking. And then we have a level up mechanism as well that actually levels up the metadata of your land as you're staking it. So when you stake for the first 50 days or 30 days consecutively, you move from level 1 to level 2. This will give you a cosmetic upgrade to the land. So it'll start with like a honey dripping kind of on the edges. That will move to like a rock foundation. When you level up to level 3, will become gold, will then become gemstones, will then become diamonds. So you'll get some like really below the land, like what that's going to look like will look really cool. The amount of shards that we airdrop you will increase each time you level up. And then the amount of commissions and entry fees that you can charge increases as you level up as well. So the cool thing with the staking is as you're staking your land, you're literally adding value to your land. So we're giving you, the owner, the ability to create more value for the asset that you're owning simply by staking, but it's leveling up the metadata on the land. And then of course, getting more utility inside of the game as you're doing that as well. So it's kind of a bigger, a bigger representation of how we think about everything in this project, which is like, let's do it differently. Let's make it more fun. Let's gamify everything. Let's really find ways that we can reward holders and reward the community in fun ways and things that may not have been done before. And there's a lot of mechanics in the game that are interesting and unique for sustainability and things like that, tokenomically and game mechanically and all that stuff. So, but that's the way we're thinking about it. But Hustle, so pumped to be on here. I know I ramble a lot, and
not a problem at all. That is the purpose of having you on here. I wanna let you speak.
Yeah. So I appreciate it. Oh yeah, and Fractal is going to be our minting partner. So we'll be minting on Fractal. You can go to fractal.is right now. You can see all the mint details, times, and all that stuff. But guestlist.honey.land is where you can go apply for the guest list.
Yeah, that is awesome. I know. I'm looking forward to it, and everything just looks so sharp. And my last question, despite the controversy on the Solana blockchain going up and down, what has been, your conviction on building on the Solana blockchain? And I personally think the ecosystem of Solana gaming looks super bright in the future, and I think those kinks will be worked out personally. But what made you guys go that route? And then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, it's a really good question. So you're looking things like technically, you need to find a good blockchain. So like the cost and TPS and things, speed, right? Things like that are important. Solana had a lot of promise there. The TPS is the thing that they have really struggled with over time, right? I'll give you an example. When we minted out our Genesis collection, the pre-sale started at 10 a.m. on June 1st. At 9:58 on June 1st, Solana network shut down for 6 hours. That was our welcome to Solana, right? So for 6 hours, it was shut down. Anyways, that was our welcome. They haven't had that issue since. They're making significant upgrades. I believe in the team and the protocol that they'll catch up to all of those things. The second thing you look for is like a community and an opportunity that like, do you have people that are willing to get into this, to share about it? They're excited about the opportunity, and they're really fanboys for the chain. And Solana has that in spades, right? And then the third thing is like, are there other builders in the space that give you enough tools that you can leverage to make your project great? And we found that a lot. There's companies like Cardinal who are building a lot of staking and rental protocols for us that make it really, really easy and technically sound. Magic Eden's building stuff for us, like through marketplace integration in our game, as well as wallet integration. And so there's a number of like really strong partners in the space. Dust Labs just launched the guest list process that we're using is provided by Dust Labs, who's the team behind DGods and Utes. And so like we're able to leverage other, like that's the third part of this. Do you have other builders and tools in the space that are going to make your project better? And so I don't think there's any question that we've got a ton of tools. I don't think there's any question we've got a great community. There's opportunity for us still to become the leader in Web3 gaming in Solana. There's not an Axie in Solana already, right? And so I think there's opportunity. The one thing that we need to figure out is technically, can Solana figure that stuff out? And I'm really, really confident in the team, Raj and Anatola and all of that. I think that they'll get it all figured out.
I agree completely. I just wanted to hear the sentiment on that because I can't recall a Solana game that I've had on the show. So it kind of popped in my head at the very end. I was like, you know what, this is an interesting question just because of, what everyone publicly sees when the blockchain goes down. I do also see a very bright future for the Solana gaming ecosystem. And as you said, there is not an Axie. There is not a leader right now really in Solana gaming at this moment in time, as far as like that real top of the chain type of game. So there definitely is a big opportunity.
We're really trying to be, I would say we're more of a Web2 game than a Web3 game from the experience, the fun first, the way that the mechanics are going to work in many, many games. We're just leveraging a lot of like what Web3 brings. Right. And so I think Solana is one of the most accessible chains as well. Like if we're trying to bridge Web2 people into Web3, I think Solana is honestly it's a chain that's really easy to work with. And so I think that's a big part of what we're looking for as well. You know, you look at something like Avalanche or, you know, any of like the like second, like layer 2 Ethereum chains and stuff, like they're a little bit more complex. I think Solana's just made it accessible. And I think that's a huge advantage for us and the type of audience that we want to introduce into crypto and into Web3 gaming. And so I think that'll be a huge advantage for us.
I agree completely. No, that's awesome, Corey. Thank you so much once again for joining me. And, you know, I think I'm super excited, and everyone follow HoneyLand GameFi, honey.land. And then is it Honey? What is the guest list link?
Guestlist.honey.land.
There you go. Guys, we are out. If you enjoyed the show, if you are bullish on the future of HoneyLand, Solana gaming, or crypto gaming in general, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more. I'll be back on Monday with another edition of In the Game. As always, play well, my friends.